Cliff Richard is more than a performer. He is a presence that has quietly shaped decades of music. For many, his songs are tied to memories, first dances, long drives, and moments that felt timeless. Over the years, he built a career that never rushed itself, instead growing steadily with grace and consistency. Even now, at 84, there is something deeply human about the way he speaks about life. He no longer tries to appear larger than reality. Instead, he reflects with honesty, acknowledging both the beauty and fragility of time. His voice, once associated with youthful energy, now carries something richer: experience. And perhaps that is what makes his journey so meaningful. It isn't just about fame, but about endurance, reflection, and learning how to keep going even when life changes. Roots in a changing world. Cliff Richard's story begins far from the bright lights of Britain. Born as Harry Roger Webb in Lucknow, during the era of British India, his early life was shaped by cultural contrast and uncertainty. His family lived modestly, yet with a sense of structure and care that held them together. After India's independence, they made the difficult decision to leave, sailing to England in search of stability. The transition was not easy. Life in Britain was more restrained, and the comforts they once knew were gone. Still, those early experiences quietly shaped him. Moving between homes, adjusting to new environments, and watching his parents adapt gave him resilience. It also gave him perspective, a sense that life could change quickly, and that strength often comes from simply learning to adjust. Finding himself music, entered Cliff's life almost quietly, like a door opening without much noise. As a teenager, he became drawn to skiffle, a genre that was simple, energetic, and accessible. When his father gave him a guitar, it wasn't just a gift. It was the beginning of something far bigger. He began performing with small groups, experimenting with sound and confidence. There was no certainty of success, only a growing sense that music felt right. In those early days, he wasn't trying to become famous. He was simply exploring a passion. Yet even then, there was something distinct about him. His voice carried clarity, and his presence had a natural ease. Without realizing it, Harry Webb was already stepping into the identity the world would later know as Cliff Richard. The birth of a star. The transformation from Harry Webb to Cliff Richard marked a turning point that felt almost symbolic. Joining a band and stepping onto the stage gave him a new identity, one that matched the energy of the era. His early performances carried the raw excitement of rock and roll, but also a certain restraint that made him stand out. When Move It climbed the charts, it wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. Suddenly, he was no longer experimenting. He was leading. Audiences connected with him not because he tried to imitate others, but because he brought something genuine. Even legends like John Lennon later recognized the importance of that moment. It showed that British music could create its own voice, and Cliff was right at the center of it. The era of the Shadows. Cliff Richard's partnership with the Shadows became one of the most defining collaborations in British music history. Together, they created a sound that felt both polished and approachable. Songs like Living Doll introduced a softer side to his music, showing that he could move beyond pure rock and roll. What made this period special was the balance. They supported him, but also developed their own identity. It wasn't a one-sided dynamic, it was a creative partnership. During this time, Cliff stood at the very center of the British music scene. Before the arrival of bands like the Beatles, he was already setting the tone. His success wasn't just about popularity, it was about influence. Beyond music and into legacy. Cliff, Richard never limited himself to one path. As his career expanded, he moved into films and television, bringing the same sincerity he showed in music. Movies like The Young Ones and Summer Holiday reflected a lighter, more playful side of his personality. Over time, his music also evolved, influenced by his faith and personal growth. He wasn't afraid to change direction, even when it meant stepping away from what had made him famous. This willingness to evolve is what allowed his career to last for more than 6 decades. While trends came and went, Cliff remained, not by chasing relevance, but by staying true to what felt meaningful to him at each stage of life. Personal loss and quiet strength. Behind the public image, Cliff Richard's life has been marked by deeply personal moments of loss. Losing his father at a young age left a lasting impression, especially as his career was just beginning to rise. It wasn't just grief, it was the realization that someone who believed in him would not see how far he would go. Years later, watching his mother's health decline brought another kind of emotional challenge, one that unfolded slowly and painfully. These experiences shaped him in ways that fame never could. They brought a sense of humility and perspective, reminding him that success does not shield anyone from life's realities. Through it all, he carried himself with quiet strength, choosing dignity over display. Love, choices, and a different path, Cliff. Richard's personal life has often drawn curiosity, especially his decision not to marry. Early in his life, he made a choice that would shape everything that followed, placing his career and responsibilities above long-term relationships. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but one rooted in a sense of duty. Over the years, he experienced moments of love and companionship, yet none led to a permanent partnership. Looking back, he has spoken about these choices with honesty rather than regret. He understood that every path comes with its own sacrifices. For him, the life he chose allowed him to give fully to his work, his faith, and his family. It was not the traditional route, but it was one that felt right to him. Enduring through challenges, like many public figures, Cliff Richard has faced moments where his reputation and personal strength were tested. During difficult periods, he experienced the weight of public attention in ways that were deeply personal. What stands out, however, is how he responded. Instead of retreating completely, he remained composed, focusing on truth and resilience. Support from close friends and a strong sense of faith helped him navigate those times. These challenges became part of his story, not as defining moments, but as reminders of his ability to endure. They showed that even someone who appears steady and composed can face uncertainty, and that strength often lies in how one chooses to move forward. Facing time with honesty, at 84, Cliff Richard speaks about life with a kind of openness that feels rare. He acknowledges the realities of aging without fear or denial. Touring, once effortless, now requires more care and consideration. Yet his passion for music remains unchanged. When he talks about the future, there's a mix of humor and honesty. He understands that time is unpredictable, and instead of resisting that truth, he accepts it. This perspective doesn't take away from his joy, it deepens it. Each performance, each moment on stage, carries more meaning now. It's no longer about proving anything, but about appreciating what still exists. A legacy that continues. Cliff Richard's journey is not just about records sold or charts topped. It is about consistency, authenticity, and the ability to remain true to oneself over time. Even today, he continues to perform, connecting with audiences who have grown alongside him. His approach to life reflects a balance, acknowledging change while holding onto passion. Whether he continues performing or chooses to step back, his impact is already lasting. He has shown that a career can be long without losing its soul, and that success can coexist with humility. In the end, his story is not just about music, but about living fully, adapting gracefully, and finding meaning in every stage of life.